Hiya, it's Carly from Kip McGrath, and today we're going to be looking at adding and subtracting fractions. And I'm going to try and cover lots of different eventualities and different ways that these things can come up. But if there are any that I've missed or anything that you want help with, just pop them in the comments. So, with each of these, we're going to do addition and subtraction. Essentially, once you've got one, you can do the other no problem, but we're just going to talk through them. So, first one is dead easy because they've already got the same denominator. So the key thing that children need to know when they're doing this is we need the same denominator. Which is the same bottom number. So because in this first one we've already got the same bottom number, we can just do it straight away. Now this is another one where I like to draw a picture for them. So if I've got a pie split into 8 and I start off with 3 of those, okay, and then I add on one more, so adding is our first thing, I end up with 4 eighths. The illustration is mainly to make sure that they understand that we're not actually changing the bottom number. When we add them, we don't add the bottom number because we don't change how many it's out of. It's still out of 8. We've just got 4 of them now. We've got 4 eighths. So we had 3 eighths, we've got one more, we've now got 4 eighths. If I was subtracting, same thing applies. So we'll draw our pie, starting off with our 3 eighths, but this time we're going to take away 1 eighth. So if I give this one away to somebody else, I've now just got 2 eighths. So I'm going to write our two answers in 2 different colours. So if I take them away, I have 2 eighths. Now, because both of those simplify, that would be the expectation. They've always got to do the first bit to get the answer, then check if their answer can simplify. So because this one divides by 2 and so does this one, we would get 2 over 4, which simplifies again to a half, and the same with this one, goes to 1 over 4. So our simplifying is really important to make sure that they understand and they get to the final answer correctly. Okay, so those are our 2 answers. Our final answer, 1/2 or 1/4 for the subtraction. Second one, this is the more simple type that you could come across where the denominators are different. So what I say is, okay, the denominators are different, but we need to get them the same. Can I just multiply one of the numbers to get to the other one? So we always look for the bigger denominator. Bigger denominator is 10. Can I somehow multiply 5 to get to 10? Yes, I can. I can multiply by 2. So times 2 times 2. If I do that, what do I get? So I would say, okay, 4 times 2 is 8 and 5 times 2 is 10. So now what I've got is 8 tenths plus 3 tenths. 8, 9, 10, 11. So I've got 11 over 10 as my first answer. But then I need to say, okay, that's got a top-heavy fraction. So as we talked about, we need to turn that improper fraction into a mixed number. So how many times does 10 go into 11? Well, it goes in once, remainder 1. So that's my final answer for that one. If it was the subtraction part, so we've got 8 tenths take away 3 tenths, 8 take away 3, 8, 7, 6, 5, so 5 tenths. And again, that simplifies because they both divide by 5 to 1/2. So those are our final answers for that one. So again, reminding them that they don't change the denominator once they've got to an equivalent denominator, because when they're adding and subtracting, they're not changing how many parts it's split into. Okay, this one here, these two are quite similar. The reason they're different will become apparent in a second. So I would always suggest to children that they may be able to leave their fractions when they're adding and subtracting them. They might not need to make them top heavy. They will in multiplication and division, but in adding and subtraction, they don't always have to. And we'll show you an example. So the first one, what I'm going to do is I still need to make my fraction part have the same denominator. So I still need to make this one and this one have the same denominator. Now, these two, there's no way to multiply them to get to a common denominator by just multiplying one of them. We are going to have to multiply both of them. And generally what I say to children is, if you can spot what they multiply by, great. If you're not sure, multiply them by each other. So that's the method we're going to go for, and actually that is the easiest one on this one. So we're going to times this one by that denominator, so by 4. We're going to times this one by the 5, which is the other denominator, and our new fractions are then 15, I'm going to have to write it below, I think, 15 over 20 and this one is 8 over 20. All right, so I might write down my big number down the bottom as well, just so it's all together. Now, what I would say to them is, okay, if we're adding them, we would add together our whole numbers. So 5 plus 2 is 7. And then 15 plus 8, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. 23 over 20. Now, they have to spot, and this is the tricky part, and this is where this method might be more useful. They have to spot that this is now more than one whole. So actually this would then split into 1 and 3 over 20. So our final answer would be 7 and that one, which is 8 and 3 over 20. Some children will find that really difficult, and so that's when it would have been more useful for us to do a top-heavy fraction right from the beginning. So quite quickly you'll spot whether they find that tricky, and if they do, then stick with the method I'm going to show you for this next question. So that's our first answer. For our subtraction answer, again, we're going to do 5 take away the 2. So 5 take away 2 is 3. 15 twentieths take away 8 twentieths is 7 twentieths. That gives me a nice answer. I don't need to do anything more complicated because they're already at the simplest form. So those are our final answers for those. Right, this one here, I'm going to have to make them top heavy. The reason is because when it comes to the subtraction, this fraction is actually worth more than this one. So I couldn't ever subtract it away. So I need them to be top heavy. And this is the method that if this fails, we will do all the time. So actually, if they find this confusing, we can just scrap it and go for this one. So let's make them top heavy. So 4 times 6 is 24, plus 1 is 25. So I've got 25 over 6. And then 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7 over 3. Okay, and we're adding and we're subtracting, same as we were before. We're going to do both of them. Now, this is where we still need to remember they need to have the same denominator. So I'm going to create another little line under here. Now, as we said, if it's not immediately obvious to you how to get them to the same, then times them by each other. But actually on this one, I've mistakenly or accidentally made it so that you can just times by 2. So we're going to times this one by 2. So we still have our 25 over 6, plus or minus, and now we've got 14 over 6. All right, so starting off by adding them together, so in red, because adding has been in red. When we add them, 25 plus 7 is 32, 25 plus 14, because we've converted it into this version, so hold on, need to be on the right line, is 39 over 6. How many times does 6 go into 39? It goes in 6 times, remainder 3 over 6. Simplifying 3 over 6, we still keep our whole number, and a lot of children will forget that and they'll just drop that whole number. Still got 6 whole ones, but now our conversion of our 3/6 becomes a half. Now this is where it becomes obvious that if we were doing our taking away, we're doing 25 take away 14, which is going to give me 11 over 6. Again, how many times does 6 go into 11? It goes into 11 once, remainder 5. Okay, and that is how we would do addition and subtraction of fractions. The key is the same denominator. With these, probably, like I say, easier to go to top heavy and then work your way through, but there are a lot of steps in that because you need to do top heavy, then you need to get same denominator, then you need to do the calculation, then you need to simplify. So I do tend to get children to write revision cards, and if you're doing that, then get a list of what you need to do. So number 1, we're going to, if we need to, make them top heavy. Number 2, we're going to get the denominators the same. Three is we're going to do the calculation. 4 is we're going to simplify. Okay,